Welcome to the Thinking Practitioner Podcast,
a podcast where we dig into the fascinating issues, conditions, and quandaries in the massage and manual therapy world today.
I'm Whitney Lowe.
And I'm Til Luchau.
Welcome to the Thinking Practitioner.
The Thinking Practitioner podcast is proudly supported by ABMP, Associated Bodywork and Massage Professionals, the premier association for dedicated massage and bodywork practitioners like you. When you join ABMP, you're not just getting industry-leading liability insurance, you're gaining practical resources designed to support your career. From free top-tier continuing education and quick reference apps like Pocket Pathology and 5-Minute Muscles, ABMP equips you with the tools you need to succeed and grow your practice.
And ABMP is committed to elevating the profession with expert voices, fresh perspectives, and valuable insights through CE courses, the ABMP podcast, and their award-winning Massage and Bodywork magazine featuring industry leaders like my co-host Til and myself. Thinking Practitioner listeners like you can get exclusive savings on ABMP membership at abmp.com/thinking. So join the best and expect more from your professional association. Good day, sir, Mr. Luchau. How are you?
Good day, Whitney. I'm doing all right. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm feeling balanced today.
You're feeling balanced. That's the question we want to ask our listeners. Listeners, what do you think of when you hear the word balance? Because with so much coming at us these days, all the noise, all the pressure, all the stress, all the uncertainty, finding any sense of internal balance can be a real challenge. So how do we deal with that? Do we shut out the world? Do we stop watching the news? Do we close our doors? How do we stay open to the world without becoming overwhelmed? And especially, how do we show up for others while staying centered in ourselves? And that's what we're diving into today. Not just balance in the body, but balance in life, especially when the world feels off kilter. And it's also what we're going to be exploring at our upcoming retreat. Shameless plug here. Finding Balance in an Out of Balance World, happening this March in Thailand. Signups are just opening up now. It's sure to fill up quickly. And this conversation is a great way to start tuning in to what we'll be up to there as well.
And where can they sign up?
But we'll give the complete links in the show notes, but advanced-trainings.com. Go there, check out the Thailand retreat. So,
all right.
Whitney, how do you think about it? What does balance mean, especially in a world that feels out of balance? What's it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this. I got to also just mention this really quick. When we started talking about this topic, I had this kind of flash memory come back. I thought, wait, I had to go look this thing up. Have you ever heard of Karl Wallenda?
No.
So Karl Wallenda was, his whole family is a group of high wire artists. And so I was thinking about this issue about balance, and someone would probably only know this if they were from Georgia like I am. But back in 1970, Karl Wallenda did a high wire walk across Tallulah Gorge in North Georgia, which is a huge gorge, and they strung a wire across the top of it. And he walked across this high wire across this gorge and did 2 headstands in the middle of his walk across there. And I thought, that's some balance.
That's some kind of balance.
And
I don't remember the gentleman's name, but there was a famous performer that walked across El Dorado Canyon here right outside of Boulder back around the turn of the century, and people took the train up from Denver to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, demonstrations of balance are captivating.
Yeah.
They're tricky, and there's big consequences for not being in balance in some situations.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what does it mean? Yeah, what does it mean, balance, especially given the world?
Yeah. You know, to me, balance is interesting. And I think we like to try to think of it as two things being equal oftentimes. But that, to me, may or may not be the case, because sometimes balance might mean you're trying to keep something going or keep some aspect of your life happening in a certain way. And that means you have to do more of something. So, for example, I mean, just like in a body framework here, you've got a sprained ankle or something like that. You know, you can't put equal weight. You can't balance your weight between the 2 feet while your ankle is sprained. You have to put more weight on the other one. In your life, you know, let's say you've got maybe a spouse or partner who's got a disability. They can't do all kinds of things like you might need to have them do an equal amount of things around your life or something like that. So balance might mean keeping things going and recognizing that, maybe you have to put forth extra effort or do some things, with something not quite feeling like, you're getting everything done on an even keel basis,
Balancing,
if that
yeah,
makes sense.
balancing what needs to happen with what we
Yeah.
can do, perhaps, and as opposed to just balancing left and right
Yeah.
feet. I'm really enjoying this thought exercise that you and I have been having around this topic. How does balance in the body translate out into balance in life? And for me, we think about in the body, at least, we think about homeostasis, which is an interesting word. The idea of balance, a kind of balance that gets returned to, the body's always trying to return to. But that phrase, homeostasis, has that stasis right in it, that idea that there's a place that it's trying to get. And I, especially as I grow older, I think more and more about balance being homeodynamic or moving.
Yeah.
Even like when we do try to stand still, we're always swaying a little bit. And it makes me also think of Sterling and Iyer and their idea of allostasis, which means stability through change. So it's like our nervous, it's like instead of homeostasis, they proposed allostasis back in the late 80s. And they said it's our nervous system always scanning what's happening, predicting what's going to be needed next, and making little shifts to keep us going.
Yeah.
So, they say instead of trying to get to some perfect fixed state, balance means being adaptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can clearly feel that in your own body too, if you just try to stand on one foot, and balance yourself in an upright position. You don't just get in that position and be still. You're constantly contracting your muscles on the front of your leg, the back of your leg, the sides of your legs to adapt to your body's swaying motion and position. So it is, as you note, they're truly, I think, a dynamic position.
In the dance form I'm a fan of, contact improvisation, we've had a couple of guests here talking about it. They have what they call the small dance, which is Steve Paxton's original small dance and contact improvisation, was just standing essentially still. But there's always a small dance. There's always a little bit of sway. There's always a little bit of shift happening. And in the small dance practice, you tune into that. You feel that super calming, super interesting practice.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, here's a weird one. Did you know that airplanes don't fly straight?
No, I did not. So tell me about that.
They're always a little crooked.
Really?
The nose never points exactly ahead, or not for just a second. They're always twitching back and forth across what the straight vector would be. Because of, all the drag, all the forces around them are never perfectly symmetrical.
Oh, yeah.
It's never the same left and right.
Yeah.
And on an airplane as big as the 747, I guess that twitching back and forth between left and right is as much as a foot at the tail of the airplane. The foot of the airplane twitches, every so often back and forth over this balance line, this imaginary ideal balance line that it never is actually quite on.
Huh.
So
I get nervous flying about certain things. There's one more thing.
I have one more thing.
Like
it actually helps me trust. It helps me trust the world more, because I realize it isn't about getting it perfectly, balanced like a rock on a rock and staying there. It's about this dynamic, always moving process that applies even to huge airplanes flying through the air. They're always looking for this center line as opposed to finding it.
That's fascinating. Huh. So,
okay, adaptability, stability. I want to talk about that. Are you ready for that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're always twitching, we're always swaying, we're always moving, seeking the middle, then balance becomes what? Balance becomes that process of searching, and it involves being adaptable. It involves actually finding stability through adapting, through moving, as opposed to holding still or gripping. And balance is then like the capacity to respond and the ability to stay connected to the earth, stay grounded, as opposed to fixed and solid and rooted and not moving.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that's a wonderful analogy. I keep coming up with all these sort of visual metaphors and analogies, and I'm thinking, for example, about the guys that work on the fishing boats in Alaska in the ice in the Chukchi Sea or the Arctic Ocean, you know, fishing out there. You got
Yeah.
ice on the deck, and you're trying to stand up and maintain your balance in the midst of a pitching ocean on an icy deck. You know, that's
Yes.
that is the kind of thing of like, it's got to be a dynamic process of paying attention to a lot of different types of things to be tuning into there.
Sometimes my week feels like that. That's not
That's
like what my
right.
schedule is like sometimes.
Right.
All right, here's another thought that came up for me, and I've framed it as perturbation. Perturbation, like getting off kilter, sparks reorganization. And this is actually Kelso and Engström's in 2006. They wrote about how healthy systems grow and adapt by responding to disruption. It actually is being disrupted. It is the pitching of the boat in the sea that makes us grow and adapt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's without perturbation, without actually getting off kilter, we don't change, adapt, and grow.
Yeah. And that, I think, there's a lot of other similar analogies to them, thinking of things like, you know, even readings, things about pain science and how adapting to novel stimuli sometimes can cause changes that will move you back toward a more balanced state and decrease overactivity in their nervous system because of an introduction of that novel stimuli. So that's something, you know, getting outside the realm of the normal sensations that you're feeling brings you back into a sense of, let's say, a greater sense of balance possibly.
That's one explanation for how our touch helps with pain. It gives a normal sensation or a stimuli. It perturbs the existing pain pattern in a way that our nervous system reorganizes around the new stimulus.
Yeah.
And it might be why kids spin around to make themselves dizzy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just that getting things stirred up in there is actually interesting and helps with learning and balance and entertainment as well.
Yeah. You know, and again, I keep thinking, I keep seeing all these visual metaphors of things. I'm thinking of another balance concept that I always find in nature, to me, remarkable, is looking at a very tall tree that is leaning significantly. And you think about the balanced forces of in a straight tree. You know, you got balance forces, mostly compression loading straight down through the trunk of the tree that keeps it in that position. But you got these trees, you know, growing out of a hillside or something where, you know, early on in the tree's life, it got pushed to the side and it grew up at an angle. You know, by the time you get the weight of that huge trunk and the torque load of the tremendous length of that tree, there's a huge amount of force, you know, holding that tree up, pulling on one side and compressing the other side tremendously. But somehow or other, it maintains a balance to have life and to keep growing, you know.
Great metaphor. Yeah. Great metaphor. Yeah, if a tree wants to fall, there's almost nothing, I mean, in a certain direction. So almost nothing the lumberjack can do to keep it from going much off of that. But still, it's going up. It's finding a way to balance that tremendous force and still go up.
So likewise, if a tree wants to live and it's tilted or pushed to the side or whatever, it's going to find ways to make that happen, you know. And I think for some of us too, when you talked about at the very beginning, you know, the craziness of our world right now, and it seems like a tremendous spinning out of balance kind of thing. That's something to keep in mind, is that if we want to try to achieve and recognize and gain that balance, we can do that, you know. Yeah, you might have to expend certain types of energy more so on one side of your tree than another, but you can do that. You know, you can find some kind of equilibrium.
And the idea that imbalance itself is what helps us change, grow, and learn. So let me just ask a listener question too. Listeners, can you think of a time when a challenge or disruption in your life, something that knocked you off balance, actually led you to more clarity, resilience, or movement in a better direction? I'm thinking of a couple. How about you, Whitney? You got any off the top of your head?
A very long list of perturbations in my life that have sent me in different directions, but eventually maybe led to some degree of balance. Yeah. So
well, I'm just thinking again in my training school, the times that I tried things that didn't work. I put a lot of energy into a particular direction that I was excited about that maybe the world wasn't.
Yeah.
Ended up making me feel off kilter or out of balance, but ended up with me learning more about what people respond to
Yep.
and finding that sweet spot between what I'm passionate about and what the world is.
And I think that's also describing the process of learning, which is shaving off and recognizing, when things don't necessarily work the way that you think they do. It's like, oh, maybe I need to reframe my understanding of this and bring, my cognitive balance back into alignment with what's going on with reality. So
There's that.
yeah.
Well, I want to unpack this question a little more about how does the body help us understand balance as a process even more deeply. Like we've mentioned that balance isn't static. We're always moving, even standing still, the body's moving on. There's this idea too that the vestibular system, that is our balance system, including our inner ear and our orientation off the horizon and the surfaces we touch, that's part of our emotional regulation as well.
Tell me about that.
Well, the citation I pulled up, Hitier et al. 2014, we'll put those in the show notes. Balance pathways are tied to mood, to calming, to orientation, not just in space, but in terms of emotional orientation and return to center. So our sense of balance is wired into brain systems, the same ones that regulate emotion, memory, self-awareness, so that when we work with physical balance, just simply, like you said, balancing on one leg, it can support emotional and mental adaptability and stability too. And maybe just a quick example, practices that engage your sense of balance, equilibrium, like slow walking meditation, or work like Feldenkrais, things like that, where we're focusing on the sensations of balance, are super calming and calm us autonomically and emotionally as well, and shift our general mood.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this piece too, is it seems like a lot of times, again, kind of as an analogy, I would say I have walked through a lot of my life and continued to do a lot of things in my life, especially as I was younger and doing a lot more physical things, on a sort of a more granular scale, playing football in the neighborhood, riding my bike, doing all kinds of physical activities. Took for granted the nature of the balance process in my body until I took a Tai Chi class, and it made me move extremely slowly.
Yes.
And just really, really tune into balance, and just thinking like, wow, there's a lot to this. It's just like, this looks like it should be really easy just to move slowly and kind of maintain your balance. Like, what's the big deal here? But like, once you start slowing down and doing that, you recognized a lot of fine points and finesse about the whole entire balance process. I think somatically, that we take for granted a lot.
And unbalanced activities like slack lines or wobble boards, first time people hop on them, they try to stand still. They try to still the shaking, the back and forth or whatever else. And the art is actually to move with it and to bring some movement to what you're doing there. And then things get very balanced. There's this cool little short video from the New York Times called Slow-Mo, and I got to put a link in the show notes too, about a guy who does inline skating, and he's older. He's probably older than you and me even. And he very eloquently describes how getting off center in relationship to the center of the earth is exhilarating. And so just being a little bit off, like I think about skiing here in Colorado, or people that do different things where your center of gravity is a little bit off your base, and you're actually doing a controlled fall in many ways, is in the essence of so many sports and physically exhilarating things like running or things like that. Running is a controlled fall, so many dance forms, etc. And so the exhilaration that comes from a controlled fall and the calming that comes from the slowing it down, being with it, are both really clear physical principles that we use all the time in our lives and can use in our work.
And, again, kind of bringing this back into the clinic room where lots of our listeners are spending a whole lot of their time. This is a great opportunity, I think, for recognizing it is so easy to get distracted by the thoughts running through your mind when you're doing massage or your bodywork session. And it's, it's a quiet time, and like you've been doing a bunch of these during the day today, and you just kind of like zone out and drift off somewhere. But if you can reconnect yourself and tune back into like really listening to how your body is moving in relation to the pull of gravity and the shifting of your weight back and forth and everything like that. I find when I do that, that I get a lot more engaged in the therapeutic process that I'm working with somebody in, by really tuning into those sensations in my body as well.
You're talking about what we used to name simply as presence, being
Yeah.
somatically present in my body as I work. The fancier word for that, of course, is interoception, being aware of my internal world, my internal sensations, and how grounding that is, how staying aware of our inner experience helps us with enjoy the work, be present for the work, do better work, get nourished by the work. That's the basic practice, and
Yeah.
supports emotional resilience. There's research that shows that the more interoceptively attuned people are, the more emotional resilience they can have too.
Yeah.
And then, back to our guest, a episode or two ago, Stephen Porges, how balance is one of those factors, along with movement, touch, breath, sound, that increase vagal tone and calm the nervous system down. That ability to regulate in gravity, in the field of gravity, is one of the things that helps calm the vagus nerve and calm vagal tone as well.
Yeah. All those pieces, very important, coming together there.
You had an interesting one about the idea of symmetry in body work.
Yeah, that's just, it's so pervasive, I think, in all these different systems of manual therapy and manual work of all kinds. This idea of having to bring the body into balance, front to back, side to side, shoulders level, hips, pelvis level, whatever it is.
That balance
Looking for
means symmetry.
Yeah, that balance means symmetry, as you noted there. So, and I think it is, it's been the genesis for the birth of lots of different systems and methodologies of body work that have tried to change the physical form and function of individuals to bring that sense of balance, or that appearance. Sometimes even it's just the appearance of balance by things being equal from side to side or front to back or whatever it is. But I've kind of grown away from a sense of that being as critically important as I used to think it is. I think, and that's kind of like getting back to what you were talking about the dynamic body, really being able to be, what's more important is how does your body adapt to the changing forces and environments and situations that it gets in throughout the world. Not necessarily do you fit a particular visual model of symmetry from side to side. And especially, I mean, that we learned this back in when I was studying psychology. You've probably seen and heard this talked about numerous times before, the experiment where you take a mirror and put it, along right down the midline of your nose and your face, and you look at that mirror reflection of the opposite side of your face, and it doesn't look like you a lot of times.
You get two different people.
You recognize that, you were not symmetrical like that exactly from side to side. So
we're not symmetrical. Oh, this is an interesting, another little trivia fact. Casting directors for movies and such often look for asymmetry because it brings a whole lot more character to the face.
Interesting.
Yeah, even the most beautiful, charismatic, lead they look for like some sort of really interesting asymmetry as opposed to the perfectly mirror image face.
I'm thinking now of Sylvester Stallone and the lip curl up, the one side lip curl up.
There we go. You do a whole study of that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So,
well, I certainly, as somebody who originally trained at the Rolf Institute and taught there for 20 years, symmetry was our watchword, and the heritage of the plumb line and looking at people to see, were they symmetrical, front, back, side, etc. It was a really useful model, and it's still used widely and still provides value, but it's something that stopped making sense to me when I started shifting more toward adaptability as the goal, as opposed to positional symmetry being the goal. And I think to be fair to Rolfers, a lot of Rolfers would agree with that and practice in that way too. But in its simplistic or early formulations, we can really get confused by trying to make things match shape exactly, which
Yeah.
doesn't always, or maybe rarely translates into the functional improvements we think it might.
Yeah. And, we as humans are so incredibly adaptable to changes in form or function that in many instances our bodies have adapted. And I think I can't remember, like, I think it was Mark Olson I've heard talking about this a number of times, saying like, in terms of the whole postural positioning thing, is that a
Yeah.
lot of times people are in a postural position because that's what gets them out of pain.
Okay.
And so an altered position, although we might say it's asymmetrical or not, balanced or whatever, what it is like the balance they're seeking is a relief from pain in that
That's
instance. Yeah.
that's the idea of balance as the best possible uh, accommodation of all the different factors coming in at this moment.
Yeah.
So that in that sense, it's more of a Taoist sense of balance than a Greek perfection sense of balance,
Yeah.
saying that there's a harmony between all the different forces, and that's what balance represents. And in that definition, if you take it far enough philosophically, you can't be out of balance. That wherever we are in the moment is some sort of perfect, in quotes, accommodation of all the things we're trying to adapt to.
Hmm.
And that's always moving. And when it goes really far toward an extreme, we will at some point find our way back.
Yeah.
This is the optimists that say climate change sucks, but the earth is going to be all right. Maybe humans, who knows? But the big systems will find balance eventually, somehow, in some way or another.
Yeah.
But it's helpful. Like I'm taking it down to the micro level now with my clients. That's helpful for me to remember too, what you just said, that what I'm seeing as um, certainly asymmetries, but also even difficulties are an attempt for this system, this complex system that we are, to accommodate or adapt to something that's happening. And that helping find more options can be helpful. Helping people be really refined and nuanced about their awareness of how they do that is sometimes the most helpful thing I can offer, as
Yeah.
opposed to pushing it back straight again.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say too that I don't think it's correct to say that asymmetries don't matter. As we're talking about this, we can say that there are lots of them that people will adapt to and get along with.
Mm.
But I don't feel like it's accurate to say something like asymmetry doesn't matter because, for example, you can have a person who's, let's say, a sedentary office worker, and they have an asymmetrical leg length between the two sides, and they're spending most of their time at the computer doing work. It's probably not going to impact their life a whole lot and may be a real significant thing that's going to throw them out of balance
Mm.
until they say, hey, I want to really get in better shape. I'm going to start running. And now that immersed activity on top of the asymmetry they have and is going to get their whole system out of balance and likely lead to lower
Out of
extremity
balance,
injuries.
meaning
Yeah.
how does that, so let's say leg length difference, someone starts running, how does that get them out of balance?
Well, I'm going to say out of balance, meaning they're going to start having pain.
I
Uh,
don't know if that's inevitable. I want to question you there.
no, I would agree. It's not inevitable, but it's a likely scenario of when that happens.
Let's say the statistics support it being more likely over a certain leg length difference,
Mm-hmm.
but it's pretty large. And that within the range of normal, there's lots of leg length differences that don't result in more pain or more symptoms.
Yeah, yeah, and that's right. That's absolutely correct. A lot of them don't. I'm just talking about the person that does, and they choose to run on the wrong side of the road. That causes their long leg to be on the
To
high side. And all that kind of
exaggerate
stuff.
the
Yeah.
left-right
So
difference, the asymmetry.
you get to that point of really noting it's not a black and white issue. It's a very gray issue, and it's like it doesn't really matter until it matters. And the problem is trying to figure out, when does this really matter? At what point is it really significant to matter?
Yeah, I I can't help but be the devil's advocate there. You know what you're saying? You're saying that that symmetry isn't nothing, that there are times when a big asymmetry will cause challenges or problems for someone.
Mhm.
But I've really enjoyed being the person who says maybe not.
Mhm.
Let's say our assumptions about that are variable. It may or
Yeah.
may not apply to you. So even with a leg length difference, are there ways you could enjoy a run that would allow you to be adaptable enough that you're not gonna hurt? Because these statistics that show that over a certain leg length difference, and I think maybe let's say it's 4 millimeters or quarter of an inch, something like that. Maybe it's 3/8 of an inch, maybe it's bigger. There's a point at which this call is assumed to be more statistically significant than the small ones that we're adjusting with little inserts.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
even
Yeah.
those with the larger ones, they're an average
Mhm.
of people's, and every individual is not an average, and so there's lots of ways people might accommodate to the factors that include maybe their leg length difference and lots of others as well.
And that's the key point, I think, is that it's never one thing. We can't put all of our eggs in any one basket and say, well, just because you have a leg length discrepancy, that's going to either be an issue or not be an issue. Every person is a unique cup full of all kinds of variables that may play into this. Bone weakness, genetics, running surface. Are you running on soft ground? Are you running on the beach? Are you running on hard asphalt? All those kinds of things
What
are
you
going to have
said to
to be
your
put into a
roommate when
mix.
you went out the door
Yeah.
for your run,
Right.
how happy your dog was this morning. There's lots of factors in there that are going to determine how you feel on your run, including physical pain. So yeah, I know you agree with me. I'm just like pulling this one apart
I
because
like it.
it's
Yeah, I
such an
think it's good.
important.
It's good to tease that apart there because this is, again, I do want to emphasize, I think this is really important because there is a tendency, I think, in a lot of, if you look at a lot of the debates on social media and everything that have been going on in our field and similar related fields for a long time, a lot of the problems come because people get into a fundamentalist kind of mindset about like, it's all this way, like this is, when things are there this way, this is going to happen. And just kind of like, you're excluding the extreme variability that might be introduced into the equation by the uniqueness of all these human individuals. So yeah. And
Well, what's the opposite of a fundamentalist? Iconoclast. My pendulum has swung more toward iconoclast, where if there's a symmetry assumption there, I smell it and want to question it because I grappled with those for so long, and found ways to help people be more symmetrical, but it didn't really feel settled until I included the adaptability question into that as well. And there's still so much in our manual therapy tradition that assumes symmetry is the goal and is itself balance. That if we're physically symmetrical, if stand on the scale and my left and right weigh the same, then that's balance, then I'm less likely to have symptoms. Questioning that.
Yeah.
And that's to this way to summarize that is the goal in my mind is not only adaptability, but harmonious adaptability, not just symmetry. Harmony comes from things being different, but working together.
Yeah.
As opposed to a dissonant asymmetry. It would be harmonious asymmetry. And there's lots of different chords possible.
Yeah. I mean, I just think about the idea of symmetry being things like, well, not symmetry, I mean harmony, which you were just saying a moment ago about harmony. Like I think of it, especially because of my background in music, I think of it from a music standpoint. You have different tones that are designed to work together, but they're different. And that's how you make the music is by them being different.
Yeah, there's a lot of notes you can play together that sound really amazing. And even the ones that don't sound amazing can be really interesting in the right context. But yeah, so many clients come into us having been told that things that they don't feel like they have control over are causing their problems, or that they're flawed, broken, or dealing with something that's immutable in their own bodies because of these narratives. And there's so much we can help them with by helping them reframe what balance might mean or adaptability might mean to them. Okay, I'm ready to turn that page. Thanks for bearing with me there. Your question, how do we stay balanced in ourselves while we care for other people?
That's a really important tough one. I think for a lot of people in our field in particular, just because I hear a lot of practitioners talking about, at the end of the day, they feel like they've taken up the energy of their clients or taken up, exhaustion, or they feel exhausted because they feel like they're taking in so much from trying to help people. And I think that's a common thing in a lot of caregiver professions. It's something that we need to tune into and really kind of look at what are our strategies for maintaining health and balance and equilibrium in our lives, so that we don't get overwhelmed and out of balance by that.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure. How
do you do with that? Because I'm offering myself for the same question.
Yeah. First of all, I will say I don't think I do it well a lot because um, I have a tendency to overwork myself, push myself too hard, and blow off the need for personal well-being
Mm,
focus. Um, and it comes, I think, from, I mean, I've tried to kind of like analyze this myself. I think it comes from you know, maybe influences from my dad a lot, who was just kind of like a person who grew up, in the
mm,
post-depression era in a very poor household with 5 kids and like always having to make do
mm,
and deal with more difficult situations. And he would always go like, oh, I can handle this. Oh, I can handle this kind of thing. And so I really did a lot of that kind of thing too, which is like, oh, that's not that big a deal. I can handle this.
mhm,
Instead of looking at how do I keep myself functioning optimally by really paying attention to my own well-being. And remember, that thing that's really important is that if you don't take care of yourself, you will not be able to take care of others well in that process at a certain
What an
point.
interesting distinction, the difference between
Yeah.
I can handle this and I can handle myself, or I can take care of myself.
Yeah.
That's a really different mindset.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. What about you? How
Well,
do
yeah,
you do with
for
this?
I am similar. I could confess some of the same things, not having great role models in that sense, who just uh, were basically relying on their work ethic to get them through every scenario, including personal scenarios and things like that, diving into work as the way to solve the problems. And that actually worked for me pretty well for a long time until my wife got really, really sick.
Hmm.
And this was my wife, passed a little over a year ago after a long process with cancer. And in that process, there was a point at which I needed to stop working to take care of her,
Hmm.
which was really great for me
Hmm.
to actually reframe my focus to caring for her as opposed to just working on the other stuff I usually worked on.
Yeah.
And so that uh, helped me really reflect on this work-life balance thing, as end of life often will, too. And then when she passed, that it felt like that momentum had been broken for me.
Hmm.
I've needed this time to recover, but it's also a time to reassemble how my own relationship with work and the balance I'm looking for around, we say work-life balance as if they're opposite.
Hmm.
Where do work and life support each other? Where does
Yeah.
my work support my living support my work?
Hmm.
And sometimes it's as simple as, am I going to personal time or am I going to work? But usually it's more, how can there be a more harmonious integration of this two?
Yeah.
It isn't just trying to lean into the productivity as the way to cope or deal with the difficult things that are
Yeah.
happening too.
And, the whole concept of work-life balance has, again, like so many things, a lot of nuance to it, because if you have a person who's got a job that is a degree of sort of drudgery and discomfort, they're definitely trying to look for a way to balance those parts of their lives so that they don't have that overwhelm the rest of their life. And
It,
that's the person who's oftentimes, like looking for the weekend and looking for, at the end of the day, like what time does it get? How close is it to 5 o'clock
yeah,
for me to get off?
different challenge for those of us
Yeah.
who love our work, huh?
Yeah, there's a flip side to that. Those people like us who are, passionately obsessed about what we're doing. I have to sometimes, drag myself away from work because it's like, I gotta stop. I gotta
Mhm.
stop, but I'm really interested in what I'm doing right now. But yeah,
Yes. I think it's a really common thing amongst body workers, but caregivers in general. I mean, there's
yeah,
statistics support that we're less good at finding time to take care of ourselves, those of us who are in caring professions.
yeah.
And, interestingly, I went to my extended faculty, the assistants and the people in our certification program who are, those who are teaching my work, and says, what do you guys really want to learn together about? And we sorted out some technical questions, some specific conditions. And then it opened up and to life questions. And what we ended up focusing on in our in-house learning project is work-life balance, especially time management. So I'm doing a book group, study group with the people in my faculty circle on time management. And
Hmm.
that's been so rich because it brings in all these questions of balance.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a common challenge for all of us in the culture, but especially those of us in the helping professions. We ended up, I'll just give a little plug here. We ended up the book we chose for the study group was Kendra Adachi's The Plan. And there's a lot of great ones out there, but hers really took really captured our fancy, captured our interest there because her idea was that we're going to intentionally choose what matters most, given the season, given the moment. It isn't about being more productive, it's about being more intentional and integrating that into the flow of our life. It was really seemed to be a balanced approach to the whole thing.
Right.
Okay. Balance. Anything else in that topic we want to talk about?
Oh, I think we kind of got on the key things there on that one. Yeah. Well,
this
for our next
one here, like how is caring for ourselves, how does that relate to all that the world needs? The world is so struggling so much. So many people in the world are struggling. The world is struggling. People are struggling with the way the world is. People are struggling with each other. People are struggling with basic needs, etc.
Yeah.
So where does caring for ourselves fit into all that?
The thing that really, comes up for me when we ask that question or look into that is that common bumper stick you see around all the time. Think globally, act locally. Because I think, again, on a bigger scale, we can see just the little things that you do on a day-to-day basis. I think I heard, who was it? I think it was Ram Dass that I heard talking about this one time, saying a fully conscious and compassionate bus driver can affect a lot of people's lives in traffic. And just seeing how what might seem like seemingly insignificant actions or activities on your part can really help bring a greater degree of balance around the world.
You just
somebody
blew
cuts
my
you off
mind.
and
That blew me. Yeah, you a little bit. Like I'm thinking I'm helping people be calm on my table. I have that option too when I'm driving. I could be calming the people down around me or not.
Yeah. Somebody who cuts you off, in traffic, you can give them the fingers like, you asshole, or whatever, or you can oh man, I hope you can get there in time for wherever you're going so quickly, and your heart rate's going to go down and your blood pressure is going to go down instead of trying to get all wrapped up in those kinds of things. I think that's hard sometimes, but it is a goal to seek, to move towards, I think.
Well, self-compassion, self-care being the foundation of where we work from, that those are logistically or logically necessary for us to even have something to offer.
Yeah.
And then there's this old Taoist story of the rainmaker, the traveling monk who came into an area where it hadn't rained in decades, I think, something like that. And he traveled in this area and went into a cave and did his traveling monk thing, disappeared for a month or two, and then all of a sudden it started raining. And he came out and people says, "What'd you do? It hasn't rained for so long. What did you do in that cave?" He says, "I didn't do anything. I just felt kind of sick when I got here. I felt a little off and a little out of kilter for myself. So I had to go to the cave and just take care of myself, just do some of my self-care practices. And then when I started to feel better, I looked out and it was raining." So this is suggesting that it's not separate, that we feel the world and maybe the world feels us. Now, not to make us grandiose and think that we can change everything just by working on ourselves. It can get a little narcissistic there. But and this is a classic debate too between the social activists and what's the other side of that? Personal development or personal responsibility or something like that. That ideally we want to be living along that continuum and not just at one end of it or not. So it's not all about the world or not all about ourselves, but there's some ways we engage in that whole continuum.
You mean there's a balance?
There's a balance or a moving balance. There's a adaptability to be had along that realm. And it's really a puzzle for me personally. Now, how do I engage in the world in ways that feel effective and feel right and feel encouraging and still take care of myself? But it's a worthy challenge.
Yeah.
I really liked Stephen Porges' answer to that episode or two ago. He talked about how, well, it actually is your friend group. It's your peer group. It's the people you're around. They're going to help you deal with the world and that you're going to help deal with the world in a way.
Yeah.
So it's like somewhere between your local and global, like there's this continuum that we get to through the relationships we have.
Hmm. Yeah. So
You
what's
asked
next on our
you
list
asked
of?
too about technology. So how do we navigate between technology and touch? Those of us who like both,
Yeah.
or even those
The
of us who don't.
yeah, right, right. This is a hard one for me because I am fascinated with a lot of technology stuff, and I think it's out of balance in my life, in that I've spent a lot of time on the computer and I spent a lot of time studying and learning about technology things. Um, and I miss some other parts of my life, and a lot of that's because my work sort of revolves around that as well. But that's a difficult one because there are certain types of things that are alluring. Um, you know, just go down and sit, watch, turn on the television or whatever, instead of just sitting and listening, going outside and listening to the birds and the sounds of nature and the crickets chirping or whatever. Um, Technology in particular has so many different ways to allure us into um, getting kind of caught up in what it's doing.
Oh, sorry.
This,
What'd you say? I just got a text.
yeah,
I just got a little dopamine hit. Someone wants to talk to me. That's so cool.
yeah,
What were you saying, Whitney?
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Oh,
it's so true though. That's just that's exactly where we are with those things. Um,
yes. That's it. So there's the challenge.
yeah.
There's the challenge. Of course, we are lucky to be in a profession where we're standing for the complementary part of that equation. The touch side helps us stay real, stay actual, stay embodied, and
Mhm.
stay connected.
Yeah.
Where the technology offers those kinds of simulated experiences that are so easy to access and
Mhm.
disengage from. They're available there when we want them. And yet our actual touch practice or movement practice or body practices remain the fundamental foundations of what we're doing.
Yeah, and for those who are spending, the majority of their time in the treatment room doing things with people, I think you have an opportunity to really bring a lot of that back into a lot of your life because once you close the door and start that treatment, I mean, maybe you've got some music playing or something like that, but you can divorce yourself pretty significantly from technology and really tune into the embodied experience of sharing that space with another individual and what's happening there in the treatment room in a really significant way that's I think brings a wealth of well-being to your life, yeah, if you can do that kind of thing. So don't be listening to your phone, and please, for the people who've talked about doing this, I know I've complained about this on the podcast before.
Mm.
Don't listen to podcasts while you're doing your massage treatments with people. Even if it's our podcast, don't do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Or only listen to one podcast at a time, maybe.
yeah, right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So to wrap up, what are some of the ways that people could be aware of balance, reconnect with balance, do things right now? What do we got on our list? We got 3 things there.
Yeah. I I I tried to think about this a little bit as we were sort of talking about it, like those things in my life. I think like so many things, it all starts with awareness.
Uh,
Where do I see places in my life where there's a greater need for some balance to be brought into that? And again, not your static balance, but your dynamic balance, moving and
mhm.
ebbing and flowing. And don't, I have a tendency to get a little bit kind of rigid and um, sort of inflexible about like my daily time routines or something like that. Like, oh, I've got this on my calendar. I got to do this particular thing. It's like, no, you got to go take the dog to the vet because she's got a tooth infection and you got to go do this. So, um, you know, recognizing that there are going to be all kinds of things that will knock us off our track frequently, whatever that track happens to be. Um, and just, I think, finding ways to go with it, go with that flow, and just ride with it as much as you can will help keep you from building up greater levels of anxiety and
Nice.
imbalance.
Reminding ourselves that we can be adaptable.
Yeah,
We can go with it.
yeah,
I had one. Remember that imbalance is where growth happens.
right.
That's neuroplasticity. That's
Mhm.
where without disruption or challenge or perturbation, we don't get neuroplastic. We don't learn,
Yeah,
and we don't we don't choose between opposites, but we learn to move between them or accommodate them both. And it's not about being still or symmetrical. It's about that imbalance, living with imbalance. Yeah. You mentioned standing on one leg, but that ended up in my list of things to try. Like the classic one, stand on one leg while you brush your teeth. Just give your vestibular system a little reminder that it's adaptable.
Yeah.
Give your brain a little hit of the calming and clarity and centering that comes from that.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier in our talk too that I, used to practice Tai Chi extensively. I'm talking about like hours a day, sometimes back in my early 20s. And for me now, it's just like, okay, take 5 minutes and just do a little bit of some kind of movement, do some Tai Chi, just a little bit of something. It's like, oh, that feels really good. That kind of like brings me back into kind of peace and in touch with things. So yeah, find little things, if that's all it takes, that you can tune into or tap into, that'll do that for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then my final one, you can retreat. Either take a moment to be off your phone, or you could come to Thailand with me for 11 days when we're going to have a digital detox and basically work together on this idea of balance, adaptability, flow, all these questions in a floating retreat center where we're doing body work and movement, learning, practicing. And sometimes it takes really stepping away to really feel what's off or what's missing for us in life. So this is a chance to do that. It's not doesn't answer all the problems to go on a retreat, but it gives us some perspective and recharges us in a way that helps us come back to life even more engaged.
Yeah.
But thanks, Whitney, for diving into this topic with me. It's gotten me to really reflect on some great things that help me feel more adaptable and more connected to myself.
Yeah, well, and thank you for bringing the topic up. And your Thailand retreat sounds like a wonderful opportunity for people to tune in and do some of this, do some of these things. So yeah, I think it's and this is something that's super important and relevant for all of the people that are working with other people in whatever type of caregiving situation that you're in. That degree of balance and maintaining some kind of equilibrium, the dynamic equilibrium is critical, I think, in a healthy life.
So again, this in-house sponsor spot on our way out it's our retreat. It's the Finding Balance in an Out of Balance World. It's in March. It's in Thailand. It's designed for body workers who want to deepen your hands-on skills, but also your self-care, sense of practice, your own sense of equilibrium. And yes, companions can come too. You can bring your companions with you. And the setting is pretty remarkable. It's a floating retreat center on a quiet lake surrounded by national park. And it's a powerful way to step away, to reset and reconnect with what matters most. You can hold your spot now with a $350 deposit. And as a thinking practitioner listener, you can get $100 off your tuition when you use the coupon code THINKING at checkout at advancedtrainings.com. For all the details, we'll put the link in the show notes, and love to share this experience with you. So anyway, thanks, Whitney. Who's our other sponsor on our way out?
Indeed, as always, we'd like to thank Books of Discovery, who's been a part of the massage therapy and bodywork world for over 25 years. Nearly 3,000 schools around the globe teach with their textbooks, e-textbooks, and digital resources. And Books of Discovery likes to say that learning adventures start here, and they find that same spirit here on the Thinking Practitioner podcast. And they're proud to support our work, knowing that we share the mission to bring the massage and bodywork community thought-provoking and enlivening content that advances our profession.
Instructors of manual therapy education programs can request complimentary copies of Books of Discovery's textbooks to review for use in their programs. And listeners can explore their collection of learning resources for anatomy, pathology, kinesiology, physiology, ethics, and business mastery at booksofdiscovery.com, where you, as a thinking practitioner listener, can save 15% by entering thinking at checkout.
And again, thanks to all of our listeners. We appreciate your hanging out with us here, and we appreciate the support of our sponsors. As always, you can stop by our sites for the show notes, videos, transcripts, and any extras. You can find that over on my site at academyofclinicalmassage.com. Till, where can they find you?
advanced-trainings.com. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas about the show, your input about the show. Just email us at info@thethinkingpractitioner.com. I'll say that again, info@thethinkingpractitioner.com, or look for us on social media and YouTube. I am at Til Luchau, my name. And Whitney, where can people find you?
They can also find me under my name, Whitney Lowe, on those channels as well. And we would really appreciate it if you would take a moment to rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as it really does help other people find the show and get exposure as well. So please take a few seconds if you can to do that. And thanks again, as always, for sharing the word and telling a friend. We'll see you in the next time. And in the meantime, be balanced.
Nice. See you, Whitney.
Okay, we'll see you.